My name is Alana, I'm 28 years old, and I'm standing outside my parents' house with my suitcase while the sounds of Thanksgiving dinner drift through the windows. They just kicked me out for being a failure. 3 weeks ago, I signed the biggest deal of my life worth $25 million. As I walked to my Tesla they couldn't see in the darkness, I decided it was time they learned the truth. Before we dive into this incredible journey of family betrayal and sweet vindication, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. Are you spending time with family who truly supports you, or are you dealing with your own challenging family dynamics? Please hit that like button if you've ever felt misunderstood by your family, and don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories of triumph over adversity. Trust me, what happens next will absolutely blow your mind. The morning had started with such hope. I'd driven 2 hours to my childhood home in Westchester, practicing conversations in my head about finally revealing my success to my family. My Tesla Model S Plaid was parked 3 blocks away because I wasn't ready for those questions yet. Instead, I walked up in my simple black dress and modest jewelry, the same way I'd been presenting myself to them for 3 years. My father Frank, 58 years old and still wearing his bank manager superiority like a crown, opened the door with his typical greeting. Not hello, not happy Thanksgiving, but well, at least you showed up on time for once, Alana. Behind him, I could see my mother Dorothy, 56, arranging her real estate awards on the mantel where family photos used to be. She glanced at me with that familiar look of disappointment before returning to her trophies. The house smelled like turkey and judgment. My older brother Nathan was already there, 32 years old and sprawled on the leather couch with his wife Melissa, both of them radiating smugness. "Hey there, little sister," Nathan called out, not bothering to get up. "Still doing your little computer thing?" Melissa giggled as if he'd said something clever, her designer bag prominently displayed on the coffee table. My younger sister Carly burst through the kitchen doors, her engagement ring catching the light as she deliberately gestured with her left hand. At 25, she'd managed to snag a doctor, as she'd told me 17 times in our last phone call. "Alana, you look comfortable," she said, her eyes scanning my simple outfit with obvious pity. "Richard couldn't make it today, he's performing emergency surgery. Saving lives, you know." The extended family began arriving, and with each new arrival, my position as the family disappointment became more pronounced. Uncle Vernon, my father's brother, walked in booming about his latest business venture. Aunt Ruth air-kissed everyone while complaining about their housekeeper. My cousin Brittany arrived quietly, giving me a small smile that felt like the only genuine greeting I'd received. We gathered around the dining table, and that's when the real assault began. My father clinked his glass, beginning what I thought would be a Thanksgiving toast. Instead, it became a lecture about success and failure, with pointed looks in my direction. "We're so proud of Nathan's promotion to senior analyst," he began. "And Carly's engagement to such an accomplished man. Success runs in this family, mostly." My mother joined in, her voice dripping with false concern. "Alana, honey, have you given any more thought to going back to accounting? Mackenzie and Associates might still take you back if you apologize nicely. It's been 3 years since you threw away that stable career for your, what do you call it? Internet hobby?" I felt my hands shaking as I set down my fork. 3 years of hiding my success, of wanting them to love me for me, of hoping they'd show interest in my life without judgment. 3 years of their assumptions and dismissals. "It's not a hobby, Mom. It's a legitimate business." Nathan laughed, actually laughed. "Come on, Alana. Playing around on computers isn't a business. You probably make what, $30,000 a year? If that? Meanwhile, I just cleared 6 figures with my bonus." Melissa rubbed his arm proudly while Carly smirked. "You know," Uncle Vernon chimed in, pointing his fork at me, "I offered to bring you into my import business 2 years ago. Real work. But no, you wanted to play entrepreneur." This is what happens when parents are too soft on their children. The room erupted in agreement. Aunt Ruth shared how her friend's daughter had wasted her MIT degree on a startup and was now living in her parents' basement. Cousin James talked about realistic expectations. Even Brittany stayed silent, though I noticed her discomfort. Then my father dropped the bomb that would change everything. Actually, since we're discussing Alana's future, your mother and I have been talking. We can't keep enabling your failure. You're 28 years old, living in some studio apartment, pretending to run a business. We've been patient, but enough is enough. My mother nodded, her real estate agent smile fixed in place. We've decided that if you can't show us proof of stable income by Christmas, we're cutting you off completely. No more holiday dinners, no more family events. You're embarrassing us, Alana. Embarrassing you? I finally found my voice. When have you ever asked about my business? When have you shown any interest in what I built? Built? Carly scoffed. You sit at a computer all day. Richard performs actual surgery. Nathan manages millions in assets. What exactly have you built? The rage that had been simmering for 3 years finally boiled over. You want to know what I built? Fine. 3 weeks ago, I sold partial equity in my fintech company for $25 million. I employ 50 people across 3 countries. I own a penthouse downtown and 2 investment properties. But sure, tell me more about how I'm a failure. The room went silent for exactly 3 seconds before my father slammed his hand on the table. Lies. You think we're stupid? You think we'll fall for your delusions? Get out. Get out of my house right now. If you want to live in fantasy land, go live in the streets where liars belong. My mother stood up, her face red with anger. How dare you come into our home and tell such ridiculous lies? $25 million? You can barely afford decent clothes. Look at you. I dress simply because I thought you'd love me regardless of money, I said, tears streaming down my face. I was wrong. Nathan jumped up, getting in my face. You're pathetic, you know that? Making up stories to feel important. What's next, you're dating a celebrity? You own a yacht? My father grabbed my arm, roughly pulling me toward the door. Out. Now. And don't come back until you're ready to apologize and live in reality. He literally pushed me out the door, throwing my coat after me. Through the window, I could see 15 family members watching, most nodding in approval. Only Brittany looked disturbed. As I stood on that porch, suitcase in hand, listening to them laughing inside about my delusions, I pulled out my phone and looked at my bank balance. $8.7 million liquid. 3 weeks ago, everything changed, and they had no idea. Walking to my hidden Tesla, I made a decision. They wanted proof? They were about to get more than they bargained for. The drive back to the city gave me time to reflect on the journey they knew nothing about. 3 years ago, I'd left Mackenzie and Associates not because I was a failure, but because I'd seen an opportunity that would change everything. The irony was bitter. They thought I'd thrown away stability, when in reality, I'd traded slavery for an empire. It started in my studio apartment in Queens, the one they'd never visited because it was too depressing. That 400-square-foot space became my war room. I'd discovered a gap in payment processing for international microtransactions, a problem costing businesses billions annually. While my family celebrated Nathan's promotion to junior analyst, I was coding 18 hours a day, living on instant ramen and pure determination. The first 6 months nearly broke me. My credit cards maxed out at $47,000. I sold my car, my jewelry, everything except my laptop and my dream. I remember one night, debugging code at 3 a.m. while cockroaches scurried across my floor, wondering if my family was right. But something inside me refused to quit. Maybe it was spite. Maybe it was vision. Maybe both. The breakthrough came at month 7. My algorithm could process international microtransactions at 1/10 the standard cost while maintaining security compliance. It sounds boring until you realize that gaming companies, app developers, and content creators lose billions to transaction fees. My solution was elegant, scalable, and revolutionary. I named the company FinFlow, and everything changed. Getting the first client took another 3 months of cold emails, rejected pitches, and doors slammed in my face. Then Gene, a gaming company CEO in South Korea, took a chance on the unknown American girl with the crazy idea. His company saved $200,000 in the first month. Word spread like wildfire through the Asian gaming community. By year one's end, I had 23 clients processing over 50 million in monthly transactions. I hired my first employee, David, a brilliant developer from Romania who believed in the vision. Then came Maria from Brazil, handling client relations. Thor from Iceland, managing security. We were a ragtag team working across time zones, united by the dream of disrupting a trillion-dollar industry. My studio apartment became too small for the servers we needed, so I moved to a one-bedroom in Brooklyn, telling my family it was another temporary situation. Year 2 exploded. Major gaming companies started calling. E-commerce platforms wanted in. We needed real office space, proper infrastructure, serious investment. I turned down 12 venture capital offers, maintaining 80% equity. My family never asked why I missed Sunday dinners. They assumed I was ashamed of my failure. The team grew to 15, then 30, then 50. We opened offices in Singapore and London. Our monthly transaction volume hit 1 billion. Forbes wanted an interview, but I declined, still hoping my family would eventually show interest in my life without prompting. They never did. 6 months ago, the acquisition offers started. Tech giants smelled disruption and wanted to buy it before it disrupted them. Microsoft offered 15 million. I said no. Google offered 20. I said no. Then Quantum Financial came with 25 million for 30% equity, letting me maintain control while gaining their distribution network. After 3 weeks of negotiation, I said yes. The deal closed 21 days before that Thanksgiving dinner. $25 million hit my accounts in stages. After taxes and equity distribution to early employees, I retained 8.7 million liquid, plus my remaining 70% stake in a company now valued at 83 million. My penthouse downtown cost 3.2 million cash. The beach house in Martha's Vineyard, 1.8. The rental properties, another 2 million invested. But the money was never the point. It was about building something that mattered, proving that a girl from Westchester could compete globally. My employees came from 13 countries, supporting families, buying homes, sending kids to college because of what we built together. We processed payments for small creators who couldn't afford traditional banking fees, enabling dreams worldwide. The cruel irony? My family never once asked what FinFlow did. Never Googled it. Never wondered why I was always busy. They'd created a narrative of Alana the failure and refused to see beyond it. My simple clothes and modest jewelry reinforced their assumptions. They never considered I might choose minimalism while sitting on millions. I'd planned to tell them everything that Thanksgiving. I'd imagined their surprise, their pride, their apologies for doubting me. Instead, I got pushed into the street like garbage, condemned as a liar before I could even show proof. The Tesla's heated seats warmed my body as I drove home, but my heart remained frozen from their rejection. They wanted me to live in the streets? Fine. But they were about to learn that I owned the whole damn neighborhood. The next morning, I sat in my penthouse office overlooking Central Park, watching the sunrise paint Manhattan gold. My phone had been off since Thanksgiving, and I wasn't ready to turn it on yet. Instead, I focused on the manila envelope my private investigator, Marcus, had delivered at 7 a.m. sharp. I'd hired him 6 months ago when subtle hints about my family's financial situation started reaching me through mutual acquaintances. What I discovered made my stomach turn. The report was thorough, devastating, and explained everything. My father, the proud bank manager who lectured me about stability, had been embezzling funds for 3 years. Small amounts at first, then larger ones to cover trading losses from his secret day trading addiction. The internal audit was closing in. He had maybe 2 months before criminal charges. The family's 4-bedroom Westchester house? Mortgaged 3 times, payments behind by 4 months. My mother's real estate empire was equally fraudulent. She'd been inflating property values, taking kickbacks from mortgage brokers, and steering clients into predatory loans. 3 lawsuits were pending. The state licensing board had received 17 complaints. Her real estate awards on the mantle? Half were fake, purchased online to impress clients. The other half were from 20 years ago, before her ethics evaporated. Nathan, my successful brother with his 6-figure bonus? The report showed a different story. Gambling debts totaling $200,000, owed to people who break legs for late payments. His wife Melissa? She'd maxed out 14 credit cards on designer goods, thinking Nathan's family had money. Their marriage was 3 months from divorce papers. Nathan had been borrowing from loan sharks to keep up appearances. Carly's situation was almost comedic if it weren't so pathetic. Her doctor fiancé Richard? He was an actor named Rick she'd hired from a talent agency specializing in social companions. $500 per appearance to play her successful boyfriend. The engagement ring was cubic zirconia. Her shopping addiction had put her $90,000 in debt. She'd been selling family heirlooms to pay Rick's fees. Uncle Vernon's import business was a pyramid scheme 2 steps from FBI investigation. Aunt Ruth had been caught shoplifting from Nordstrom twice, charges dropped because of my father's bank connections. Cousin James was dealing drugs from his car dealership. The entire family was a house of cards built on crime, debt, and delusion. But the worst part was yet to come. Marcus had managed to access their group chat through a technical vulnerability. The messages made me physically ill. They'd been planning this intervention for months, but not to help me. They wanted to break me psychologically, force me back to accounting, then guilt me into supporting them all. The messages were explicit, cruel, calculating. Alana always was weak, my mother had written. A little more pressure and she'll crack. Once she's back at Mackenzie, we can guilt her into family loans. Nathan had added, she's always been desperate for approval. Play the disappointment card hard enough, she'll do anything to prove herself. I need $200K minimum. My father's contribution was the coldest, she has no idea we know about her little company. Let her think we believe she's failing. Desperate people make poor decisions. We need her liquid, not tied up in some startup. They knew. They'd known for months. Someone at the bank had run a credit check, seen the unusual activity in my accounts. They knew about the acquisition offers, the company valuation, everything. Their cruelty at Thanksgiving wasn't ignorance, it was strategy. They wanted me broken, desperate, willing to liquidate everything to earn their love. But one series of messages stood out. Brittany, quiet Brittany who'd barely spoken at dinner, had been defending me. This is wrong. She's family. She doesn't deserve this manipulation. They'd threatened to cut her off too if she warned me. She'd chosen family survival over truth, but the guilt was eating her alive. I set down the report and stared at the city below. They wanted my money but were too proud to ask, so they'd chosen psychological warfare instead. The plan was elegant in its cruelty: destroy my self-worth, make me believe I was worthless, then position themselves as saviors when I came crawling back. They'd even discussed specific manipulation tactics, ways to make me feel small, worthless, desperate for their approval. The phone finally rang, Marcus calling with an update. There's more, he said. Your grandmother's estate. She left you a separate inheritance 2 years ago, about $300,000. Your parents intercepted it, told the lawyer you'd disappeared. It's sitting in an account your father controls. Grandma Eleanor. The only one who'd ever believed in me. She'd died while I was building FinFlow, and I'd been too busy to investigate her estate properly. My parents had stolen from her corpse to feed their greed. That was the moment my sadness transformed into cold, calculated fury. I opened my laptop and began typing. Lawyers, accountants, strategic advisors. If they wanted to play games with the little failed daughter, they were about to learn that the girl they'd pushed into the streets had enough money to buy the entire game board. The sun was fully up now, painting my office in harsh light. Somewhere in Westchester, my family was probably laughing about their successful Thanksgiving manipulation. They had no idea the storm that was coming. By Monday morning, I'd assembled a team that would make Fortune 500 companies nervous. Harrison Blake, the attorney who'd taken down 3 corrupt governors. Sarah Chen, a forensic accountant who'd unraveled Ponzi schemes. Michael Torres, a crisis management expert who'd handled royal family scandals. They sat around my dining table, reviewing the files while I served coffee in designer cups my family would never see. Your father's embezzlement is straightforward, Harrison said, adjusting his glasses. Bank fraud, wire fraud, conspiracy. 10 to 15 years if prosecuted fully. Your mother's real estate situation involves multiple federal violations. The uncle's pyramid scheme crosses state lines, making it FBI territory. He paused, studying my face. You sure you want to pursue this? Family warfare gets ugly. I thought about being pushed out that door, 15 family members watching like I was trash. They declared war when they conspired to break me. I'm just finishing it. But I want to be smart, strategic. No unnecessary cruelty, just consequences for their actions. Sarah pulled up financial records on her tablet. Your parents' mortgage is held by Conway Financial. You could buy it through a shell company today. Same with your brother's gambling debts. The loan sharks use a semi-legitimate lending company as a front. Expensive, but purchasable. Do it, I said without hesitation. What about protecting my company? Michael leaned forward. They'll go public when they realize you weren't lying. Claim credit for your success, say they supported you all along. We need to control the narrative first. I suggest a major announcement, something that makes their potential claims look ridiculous. We spent 6 hours crafting the plan. Purchase the debts quietly. Document everything meticulously. Prepare for their counterattacks. By evening, the wheels were in motion. Conway Financial accepted my offer of $1.3 million for my parents' mortgage. The gambling outfit sold Nathan's markers for $250,000, happy to avoid potential violence. I now owned my family's financial future, and they had no idea. Tuesday brought the first sign of escalation. Brittany called from a blocked number, voice trembling. Alana, I'm so sorry. I should have warned you. They're planning something worse. Nathan found out about your company somehow. They're going to claim you stole the idea from Dad, that it was his concept from his banking work. They've already contacted a lawyer. Thank you for telling me, I said gently. Brittany, you're not like them. Do you want out? She sobbed. I'm trapped. They co-signed my student loans, my car. If I side with you, they'll destroy my credit, my future. Check your email in an hour, I told her. Your loans and car note will be paid off. You're free. The next phase required delicacy. My father's bank held 40% of my business accounts. Time to move them. I called Jean in Korea, explaining the situation. Within hours, our Asian partners agreed to accelerate payments, creating a massive cash flow spike. $43 million moved through our accounts in 2 days, all legitimate client payments that happened to arrive simultaneously. My father, monitoring my accounts illegally through his bank access, must have seen the activity. Wednesday morning, my mother started her social media campaign. Facebook posts about ungrateful children and mental health concerns in the family. She didn't name me directly, but mutual acquaintances understood. The comments poured in, sympathetic to the struggling parents dealing with a delusional daughter. Nathan joined the assault, posting on LinkedIn about family members who create fantasy success stories and the importance of intervention. His professional network ate it up, offering support for dealing with difficult siblings. The irony of a gambling addict lecturing about responsibility was lost on everyone. By Thursday, local news picked up the story. Westchester family concerned about daughter's mental health after shocking Thanksgiving claims. They interviewed my parents on their perfectly manicured lawn, my mother dabbing fake tears while my father spoke about hoping she gets the help she needs. They painted a picture of a troubled young woman who'd snapped under pressure, making grandiose claims about impossible wealth. Sarah called with updates. The mortgage company your parents have been avoiding? That's you now. The gambling creditors breathing down Nathan's neck? Your employees. You own their fear, their desperation. What do you want to do? Nothing yet, I decided. Let them dig deeper. The smear campaign intensified. Old college friends suddenly remembered me being unstable. Cousins shared stories about my history of lying. Even a McKinsey & Associates partner gave a quote about my inability to handle pressure. The narrative was building: Alana the failure, Alana the liar, Alana the mentally ill disappointment who needed her family's firm hand. Michael monitored everything, documenting each lie, each defamation, each calculated attack. They're giving us enough rope to hang them in court for years, he observed. But I think you want something more immediate. He was right. Legal victories would take years and feel hollow. I wanted them to see, truly see, what they'd thrown away. The Forbes Tech Conference was in 5 days, the biggest industry event of the year. They'd already invited me to speak about FinFlow's success. Time to accept. Friday afternoon, I sat in my office drafting my speech while Harrison finalized restraining orders. Outside, Manhattan hummed with ambition and possibility. My phone showed 17 missed calls from family members, their panic growing as mysterious forces tightened around their finances. They didn't know it was me, but they could feel the walls closing in. Brittany had sent a thank you email, free from their control for the first time in years. At least one person would escape this family's toxic gravity. The rest? They were about to learn that the daughter they'd thrown into the streets owned the entire neighborhood, and eviction notices were coming due. The Javits Center buzzed with 10,000 of the tech industry's brightest minds. I stood backstage at the Forbes Tech Conference, watching titans of industry discuss billion-dollar valuations and revolutionary innovations. My palms were steady, my heartbeat calm. 3 years of building FinFlow had prepared me for this moment. The teleprompter showed my introduction beginning in 2 minutes. Sarah had texted earlier that morning. My family had discovered something was wrong. The mortgage company had sent a notice about new ownership, using language just vague enough to cause panic. Nathan's creditors had simultaneously called in all markers, giving him 72 hours to pay in full. The family group chat, still monitored by Marcus, had erupted in confusion and fear. They still didn't connect it to me, too convinced of my failure to see the truth staring them in the face. Ladies and gentlemen, the announcer's voice boomed through the convention center. Please welcome a surprise addition to our speaker lineup. The founder of FinFlow and one of the youngest self-made multimillionaires in fintech, Alana Winters. I walked onto that stage like I was walking into my true home. The spotlight felt warm, welcoming, honest in a way my family's house had never been. The audience applauded politely, most not recognizing my name yet. That was about to change. Good morning, I began, my voice carrying clear and strong. 3 weeks ago, I sold 30% of my company for $25 million. Last night, I slept in my penthouse overlooking Central Park. This morning, I checked on my 50 employees across 3 countries. And yesterday, my family continued telling news outlets that I'm mentally ill because they refused to believe their failure of a daughter could build something remarkable. The audience shifted, sensing drama beyond the usual corporate presentation. I clicked to my first slide, showing FinFlow's growth trajectory. 3 years ago, I left a stable accounting job to solve a problem everyone said was unsolvable. International microtransaction fees were killing small creators, gaming companies, app developers. The big banks said the infrastructure was too complex to change. They were wrong. I detailed our journey, our technology, our impact. Real numbers, verified data, SEC filings that were public record but that my family had never bothered to search. The audience leaned forward as I showed how we'd disrupted a trillion-dollar industry with elegant code and stubborn determination. But this isn't just a success story, I continued, clicking to a screenshot of my mother's Facebook post about her delusional daughter. This is about what happens when the people who should celebrate your success are too blinded by their own prejudices to see it. My family kicked me out on Thanksgiving for telling them about this acquisition. They literally pushed me into the street because they couldn't believe someone they'd labeled a failure could succeed. My phone, silenced but visible on the podium, lit up with incoming calls. I glanced down to see Dad flashing repeatedly. They were watching. Good. The saddest part? I clicked to the next slide, showing our company mission statement. I hid my success for 3 years, hoping they'd love me without knowing about the money. I drove a Tesla but parked it blocks away. I lived in a penthouse but told them it was a studio. I wanted them to ask about my life, show interest in my dreams, support me for me. They never did. The moderator signaled 5 minutes remaining. Time to drop the biggest revelation. Yesterday, a major publication asked me about the rumors that I stole this technology from my father, a bank manager currently under investigation for embezzlement. Gasps from the audience. Let me be clear. The only thing my father taught me was that traditional banking was ripe for disruption. His crimes proved it. I outlined our next phase, the expansion into Europe, the partnership with Quantum Financial, the foundation I was launching for young entrepreneurs from toxic families. Success isn't just about money. It's about freedom. Freedom from toxic expectations, from limiting beliefs, from people who claim to love you while plotting your destruction. The audience erupted in applause as I concluded. But the real drama was just beginning. As I walked off stage, security intercepted a commotion at the VIP entrance. My family, all of them, had driven down from Westchester and were demanding entry. Through the glass doors, I could see my father red-faced and shouting, my mother crying dramatically, Nathan pushing against security guards. That's my daughter, my father bellowed. She's sick. We need to help her. Harrison appeared at my elbow with the restraining orders. Your call. We can serve them now or let this play out. I thought for a moment, then made a decision that surprised even me. Let them in. But have security stay close. They burst through the doors like a hurricane of entitlement and rage. My father reached me first, grabbing my arm with the same roughness as Thanksgiving. You lying little witch. How dare you humiliate us like this? That money belongs to the family. The money I earned building a company while you stole from your bank? I asked calmly, knowing the conference security cameras were recording everything. My mother's tears had miraculously dried. You ungrateful brat. We raised you. We deserve compensation for creating your success. The same way you deserved Grandma Eleanor's inheritance that you stole? I watched her face pale. Yeah, I know about that too. Nathan tried a different approach, his gambling desperation making him reckless. Alana, sister, let's talk about this. Family helps family, right? You wouldn't want to see your brother hurt by dangerous people. The dangerous people whose debts I now own? His face went white. Every dollar you owe is mine now, Nathan. Every single dollar. The security team moved closer as Uncle Vernon and the rest of the family pressed in, shouting about lawsuits, family obligations, moral duties. Brittany stood at the edge, the only one not screaming, her eyes meeting mine with understanding and gratitude. Here's what's going to happen, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. You're going to leave. Now. These nice officers have restraining orders for each of you. Come near me again, and you'll be arrested. Try to claim credit for my success, and my lawyers will bury you in defamation suits. Spread more lies about my mental health, and I'll release the group chat messages where you plan to psychologically break me for money. My father lunged forward, but security caught him. You can't do this. I'm your father. I have rights. You have nothing, I said quietly. You threw me into the streets, remember? Well, I own those streets now. I own your mortgage. I own Nathan's debts. I own the truth about all your crimes. And the beautiful irony? If you'd just loved me, supported me, shown basic human interest in my life, I would have gladly shared everything with you. But you chose cruelty. Now live with the consequences. Harrison stepped forward with the papers. One by one, my family members were served with restraining orders. The same relatives who'd watched approvingly as I was pushed out of the house now found themselves legally barred from my presence. The security team escorted them out as conference attendees filmed on their phones, the tech world's gossip mill already churning. As the glass doors closed behind them, I saw my parents' faces one last time. The shock was wearing off, replaced by something worse than anger. Understanding. They finally understood what they'd thrown away, and the knowledge would eat them alive for the rest of their lives. The Forbes Tech Conference would be remembered for many things that year, but nothing quite like the moment a family's greed collided with their daughter's triumph on the industry's biggest stage. The aftermath came swift and merciless, like dominoes falling in perfect sequence. I watched it all from my penthouse office, monitoring the destruction of the family empire they'd built on lies and exploitation. There was no joy in it, only a cold satisfaction that justice, for once, had sharp teeth. My father's bank launched their internal investigation the Monday after the Forbes conference. Someone, perhaps inspired by my speech, had sent them footage of him claiming I stole technology from the bank. This prompted a deeper audit than originally planned. By Wednesday, they'd discovered the full extent of his embezzlement, $3.7 million over 5 years, hidden in offshore accounts and cryptocurrency. The FBI arrested him at his office, the same place where he'd once proudly displayed photos of his successful children. Nathan and Carly's pictures remained on his desk. Mine had been removed years ago. The perp walk made local news. Frank Winters, respected bank manager, handcuffed and head bowed, led to a federal vehicle while former colleagues watched from windows. The reporter mentioned his daughter, the tech millionaire he'd tried to have committed just days earlier. The irony wasn't lost on viewers who flooded social media with comments about karma and consequences. My mother's downfall was more theatrical. The State Real Estate Commission, prompted by anonymous tips that definitely didn't come from my legal team, accelerated their investigation. Dorothy Winters had been careful, but not careful enough. The doctored appraisals, the kickbacks, the predatory lending schemes all unraveled when 3 whistleblowers came forward simultaneously. Her license was revoked in a public hearing where she sobbed about being a victim of circumstances. The civil lawsuits followed immediately. 17 families who'd been steered into foreclosure sought damages. Without her real estate income or access to my father's frozen accounts, she couldn't afford the lawyers who might have minimized the damage. The house in Westchester, already in my possession through the mortgage purchase, became her only asset. I could have foreclosed immediately but chose to wait. Let her feel the walls closing in slowly, the way she'd wanted me to feel. Nathan's situation deteriorated fastest. The gambling creditors I now controlled demanded full payment within 72 hours. When he couldn't pay, they exercised their legal options: asset seizure, wage garnishment, credit destruction. His employer, already nervous about the family scandal, found an excuse to terminate him when garnishment paperwork arrived. Melissa filed for divorce the same day, taking their car and cleaning out their joint accounts. She'd married him for money that never existed, and without the illusion, even fake love evaporated. The Loan Sharks Enforcement Division, now my employees, followed strict legal guidelines. No violence, just paperwork that turned Nathan's life into a bureaucratic nightmare. Bank accounts frozen, credit cards cancelled, apartment lease terminated for non-payment. He moved back to my parents' house just as the foreclosure notices arrived. The successful brother who'd mocked my computer hobby was now jobless, penniless, and living in a house I owned. Carly's facade crumbled spectacularly when her actor boyfriend, sensing the family's financial collapse, demanded his back pay plus a bonus to keep quiet. When she couldn't pay, Rick went public on social media, sharing screenshots of their contract, photos of their fake dates, even videos of her coaching him on medical terminology to fool her family. The humiliation went viral in their social circles. The real doctors she'd hoped to date wanted nothing to do with a woman who'd hired a fake fiancé. Her shopping addiction, no longer fundable through family money or fake relationships, led to bankruptcy filing. The designer goods were repossessed. The luxury car, leased under my father's co-signature, was taken. She joined Nathan in the family home, two former golden children now tarnished beyond recognition. Uncle Vernon's pyramid scheme imploded when the FBI, following leads from my father's case, discovered connected financial crimes. Aunt Ruth's shoplifting arrests, no longer protected by my father's influence, resulted in prosecution. Cousin James's drug dealing came to light during Vernon's investigation. The extended family tree was revealed as thoroughly rotten, each branch breaking under legal scrutiny. Only Brittany escaped unscathed. With her debts paid and freedom secured, she'd moved to Seattle, started fresh, sent me quarterly updates on her new life. She was in therapy, processing years of family dysfunction, building healthy relationships for the first time. Her emails always ended the same way: "Thank you for showing me it was possible to break free." The family home became a refugee camp for failures. My parents, Nathan, Carly, and various relatives facing legal troubles all crowded into the space, fighting over rooms, blame, and dwindling resources. The group chat Marcus monitored devolved into accusations and recriminations. Everyone blamed everyone else. No one took responsibility. Then came the final blow. Grandma Eleanor's lawyer, contacted by my team, revealed the full extent of her hidden estate. Not just the $300,000 my parents stole, but another $2 million in assets she'd carefully hidden, leaving detailed instructions that it all go to the grandchild brave enough to forge their own path. The will specifically disinherited anyone who chose conformity over courage. The lawyer had searched for me for 2 years while my parents claimed I'd vanished. Now, with proper documentation, the full inheritance transferred to my accounts. The family contested, of course, but Grandma had been thorough. Video testimonies, detailed letters, ironclad legal documentation. She'd known exactly who her children had become and chose to skip a generation in her legacy. I used part of her money to establish the Eleanor Winters Foundation for Young Entrepreneurs, specifically focused on those escaping toxic family situations. The irony that my grandmother's name would be associated with innovation and independence rather than the conformity her children worshipped felt like her final message from beyond. The foreclosure notice was served on a Tuesday. I gave them 30 days to vacate, legally generous but emotionally brutal. My father, out on bail and facing trial, tried to negotiate. My mother sent pleading letters through lawyers. Nathan threatened suicide, a manipulation that might have worked 3 years ago. Carly created a GoFundMe claiming she was a victim of family circumstances, which raised $43. By spring, they were gone. The house sold to a young family who filled it with actual love and laughter. I donated the proceeds to charity, wanting nothing from that poisoned soil. The family scattered to whatever couches, shelters, or enablers would take them. The empire of judgment and greed had fallen completely, leaving only ruins and regret. Some might say I went too far. That family deserves forgiveness, that blood should mean something. But blood meant nothing when they pushed me into the street. Forgiveness requires repentance, and they only regretted being caught, not their cruelty. I didn't destroy them. I simply removed my projected success from propping up their failures. Without that illusion, they collapsed under the weight of their own choices. 6 months after the Thanksgiving that changed everything, I sat in Dr. Patricia Reeves' office, overlooking the Hudson River. Therapy had become my Thursday morning ritual, a sacred space to process the aftermath of destroying the family that tried to destroy me. The leather chair had molded to my shape over dozens of sessions, becoming more comfortable than any seat at my childhood dinner table ever was. "How do you feel about your mother's latest letter?" Dr. Reeves asked, her voice neutral but warm. The letter sat between us, forwarded by my lawyers. 20 pages of manipulation disguised as maternal love, ending with a request for just $50,000 to start over. "I feel empty," I admitted, surprising myself with the honesty. "Not sad, not angry, just empty. Like looking at strangers who happen to share my DNA." The window reflected my face, older now, marked by success and sorrow in equal measure. "That's a normal response to prolonged emotional abuse," she noted. "The opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. You've reached a healthy detachment from their chaos." The company had grown beyond my wildest dreams. FinFlow now processed over 5 billion monthly, employed 200 people, and had offices on 4 continents. The second acquisition offer came from Microsoft, $50 million for another 20% stake. I accepted, securing generational wealth while maintaining control. The girl they'd called a failure was worth over $100 million on paper. But money wasn't healing. Money was just freedom to find what actually would. I'd spent the first months after the family collapse in a fury of productivity, as if professional success could fill the hole where family should have been. 16-hour days, constant travel, an endless stream of meetings and milestones. Sarah finally staged an intervention, pointing out I was recreating the same toxic workaholism my father had modeled. That's when I found Dr. Reeves and began the harder work of internal reconstruction. Unlearning decades of conditional love, achievement-based worth, and the belief that I had to earn the right to exist. Some sessions left me sobbing. Others filled me with rage so pure it felt cleansing. Slowly, carefully, I began building a sense of self that wasn't dependent on anyone else's validation. The real healing came through helping others. The Eleanor Winters Foundation had funded 17 young entrepreneurs escaping toxic families. Their stories mirrored mine. Brilliant minds held back by families who saw success as a threat, independence as betrayal. We created a support network, monthly dinners where we shared struggles and triumphs. These chosen family gatherings had more warmth than any winter's holiday ever did. Brittany flew in from Seattle for Thanksgiving. We'd grown close over the months, the only biological family to break free from the toxic patterns. She brought her new girlfriend, a social worker named Amy who understood family trauma. We cooked together, laughed over wine, created new traditions free from judgment or manipulation. "I drove past the old house last week," Brittany mentioned as we prepared stuffing. The new family had children playing in the yard. It looked happy. Like it was always meant to be happy but never was with us. "Houses aren't cursed," I replied, thinking of Dr. Reeves' words. "People bring their own darkness or light. We brought darkness. They brought light." My chosen family had expanded beyond blood relations. Gene from Korea flew his family over for the holidays, filling my penthouse with the chaos of children who were loved unconditionally. Maria brought her mother from Brazil, who cooked enough food for 30 people and insisted everyone call her mama. David arrived from Romania with his husband, their adoption papers for twin girls finally approved. The apartment overflowed with languages, laughter, and lives intertwined by choice rather than chance. As we sat for dinner, I stood to give the toast. 23 people around my table, none related by blood, all bound by something stronger. To chosen family, I raised my glass, to those who stay when staying is hard, who celebrate when celebration is earned, who love because they choose to, not because they have to. The calls still came occasionally. Unknown numbers that I knew were family members trying to circumvent the restraining orders. Once, Carly managed to approach me at a coffee shop, begging for money, claiming she'd changed. Security intervened before she could finish her practiced speech. Each encounter reinforced that I'd made the right choice. They hadn't changed. They'd just run out of options. The foundation's impact grew beyond individual entrepreneurs. We partnered with universities to create scholarships for students estranged from families. We funded research on financial abuse within families. We created safe houses for young adults escaping economic manipulation disguised as parental love. The work felt like turning poison into medicine, transforming my pain into others' possibilities. One morning, a letter arrived without forwarding, somehow reaching my desk directly. The handwriting was shaky, elderly. Inside, a note from my father's former secretary, now retired. She'd watched him destroy his career, his family, his soul in pursuit of money and status. She wanted me to know she'd seen my Forbes speech, was proud of me, wished she'd had the courage to warn me years ago. It was the apology my family would never give, from someone who owed me nothing but offered everything they couldn't, genuine remorse and respect. Success had taught me many things, but failure had taught me more. My family's failure to love unconditionally taught me to build relationships on stronger foundations. Their failure to see beyond their assumptions taught me to look deeper at everyone I met. Their failure to choose connection over control taught me that real power comes from letting go. The penthouse grew quiet as the evening wound down. Guests departed with hugs and leftovers, promises to meet next week, next month, whenever life allowed. Brittany stayed to help clean, comfortable in shared silence. As we wrapped leftover pie, she asked the question I'd been avoiding. Do you ever regret it? Not the success, but how it ended with them. I considered lying, giving the strong answer, the survivor's answer. Instead, I chose truth. I regret that they made it necessary. I regret that they chose greed over love, control over connection. I regret that they'll spend their lives blaming me for their choices. But I don't regret protecting myself from people who would destroy me for money. That's not love. That's ownership. Later, alone with Manhattan glittering below, I opened my laptop to write the speech for next month's foundation gala. The cursor blinked on the empty page, waiting for words about resilience, success, overcoming odds. Instead, I wrote about something simpler and more profound. Family isn't who you're born to, I typed, thinking of Thanksgiving laughter and chosen connections. Family is who stands by you when you rise, who celebrates your success without claiming credit, who loves you without price tags. Blood makes you related. Love makes you family. Choose wisely. The speech would reach thousands of young people trapped in toxic family dynamics, showing them that escape was possible, that success could be claimed despite those who would deny it. But more importantly, it would remind them that the greatest success isn't the money you earn or the company you build. It's the family you choose and the love you create from the ashes of what tried to burn you down. My phone buzzed with a text from Jean. My daughter asked if Aunt Alana will teach her coding next summer. I said yes. Hope that's okay? I smiled, typing back confirmation. This was wealth. This was success. This was family. And it was worth every painful step it took to find it. As Manhattan slept, I made my final decision about my biological family. Not forgiveness, which they hadn't earned. Not hatred, which would chain me to them forever. But release. I would no longer check on their downfalls or document their destructions. They were strangers now, connected only by DNA and discarded history. My energy belonged to the future, to the family I'd built, to the lives I could still touch. The girl they pushed into the streets had found her home. Not in buildings or bank accounts, but in the hearts of those who chose to love her without conditions. That was the greatest revenge of all, not their destruction, but my indifference to it. They'd wanted to break me. Instead, they'd freed me to become everything they never believed I could be. And in that becoming, I'd found the one thing their money couldn't buy and their cruelty couldn't destroy: peace. The city lights twinkled below like earthbound stars, each one a life, a story, a possibility. Somewhere in that constellation, young dreamers were fighting family doubt, building despite discouragement, choosing courage over conformity. To them, I whispered into the night, "You are not crazy. You are not worthless. You are not alone." Build your dreams. Choose your family. Write your own story. The streets they push you into might just lead you home. And with that, I closed my laptop, turned off the lights, and went to bed in the home I'd built from the ashes of their cruelty. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new chosen family moments. But tonight, I was simply Alana, entrepreneur, survivor, and finally, peacefully, free. What an incredible journey of betrayal, triumph, and ultimately finding peace. If you've ever felt misunderstood or undervalued by family who should support you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever had to choose between family approval and following your dreams? Share your story, because you never know who might need to hear that they're not alone in their struggle. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories of people who turned their pain into power. Share this video with someone who needs a reminder that chosen family can be stronger than blood, and that success is the best response to those who doubt you. Thank you for joining me on this emotional journey, and remember, your worth isn't determined by others' inability to see your value. Until next time, keep building your dreams and choosing the family that chooses you back.